Thanks, Biz Markie, for the wonderful introduction, and welcome back to the Today Show. I'm your host, Joshy Fallon. This week, we're doing a special episode in an attempt to do our small part in an effort to improve the detrimental quality of Utah's own, drumroll please, Yep, you guessed it. We're at Brighton High School, researching a topic that actually tends to be overlooked by many but has found its way into our show. Forgive the lack of diversity, but Brighton just has so much great material we can work with. Anyways, this week's topic is more simplistic in nature, yet nevertheless provides us with the perfect opportunity to implement a more successful solution to this common problem. Today's topic is grading scales. Now wait. I know what you're thinking. No way I'm wasting my time with grading scales. I'm going to go play Fortnite instead. But if you'll just hear us out, you may be surprised to find yourself squatting up for a different kind of fight. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest star, Macy Neidiger. Macy, a Brighton High student and SBO, thank you so much for being here today. I know it's hard to find time away from your many responsibilities as an SBO, but we're very glad to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks, Josh. It's a real pleasure to be here. And let's be honest, Josh, all we do in SBOs is color posters, so it wasn't too difficult to make the trip out.
You really are a character, Macy. Anyways, let's get on with today's show, shall we? Our first question involves a multitude of grading scales that can be found at Brighton. It seems that there can potentially arise a significant amount of confusion over the subject of grading scales. Grading scales meaning how each teacher uniquely grades their classwork and awards a final letter grade, A, B, C, and so on, according to a percentage, also unique to that specific teacher. I heard a student once remark, it would take a master's degree to see how this will affect my grade. So, my question is, have you experienced any of this confusion over your grades in between classes?
Oh, Josh, let me tell you, it blows me away how inconsistent the grading scales at the school can really be. It can actually be quite frustrating, because sometimes, depending on what teacher you have, you can do a certain amount of work in one class and earn a C, while the same amount of work in a different class would give you an A. I really care about my grades, and this inconsistency can result in very unpleasant conflicts between teachers and students.
Well, Macy, you raised a good point there. As you mentioned, each teacher chooses their own way to grade classwork, changing the way different things like assignments or quizzes can affect your grade. Difficulties arise when there are differences between how each teacher grades their classwork. In an article on thebestschools.org, Dave Tamar remarks, the inevitable variance in professorial attitudes and grading approaches makes grades necessarily unreliable. There is an inherent subjectivity that comes with professorial grading. Grading is not an exact science, even if it pretends to be. Plus, it doesn't help when you get that one teacher who just refuses to update their grades. What do you think about this variance, as Tamar calls it?
Well, Josh, I frankly couldn't agree more. When I was in physics, I felt this very same way. Let's not even try to understand my teacher's timeline when grading my work. But it was beyond me to try and understand how something actually affected my grade. I remember pulling out my calculator and trying my best to do just that. Eventually, I gave up and easily finished my calculus homework instead.
Well, Macy, you've given us some great insight today, and we're very grateful for your attendance. My final question is about a solution because it wouldn't be the show without it. It honestly seems like an easy one, but maybe the administration of Brighton likes doing things the hard way, providing the kids with, a good challenge because their homework isn't enough. But, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that by providing the school with a uniform, easy to understand, consistent grading scale, we could avoid many of the problems we've previously discussed on the show.
Josh, once again, I've got to agree with you. By providing the school with a so-called uniform grading scale, we could get past many of the problems I mentioned earlier. We could do better about getting good grades, having better relationships with our teachers, and even being relieved of the stress that comes after you take a test and you're not quite sure how much your score is going to bring your grade down.
Well, thanks again for your time, Macy. We really appreciate it. And there you have it, folks. Why Brighton High School should incorporate a uniform grading scale. We'll see you next time on The Today Show.